Well, hello people. How are you doing? I just wanted to sort of do like a vlog today because I have been kind of swamped and quite disturbed with what's happened in my past that I can't really rectify very much when I actually was put in federal custody out in the United States from July 2020 to April 2023. And also did a bit of county jail time in Los Angeles County Jail, which was a case that was basically dropped and gone federal, which was something to do with just threatening online communications, where they started, or the feds, after the interview, deemed me as a cyberstalker in the federal indictment in August of 2020, which is a load of bullshit because I don't actually stalk anyone. I was just basically railroaded and found guilty through, miscarriage of justice, and the feds always try and put a lot of evil and vilification on myself, and I tried, everything, and I still do everything at the moment to appeal and in the efforts to sort of exonerate myself from these phony, ridiculous federal charges that I ended up still doing considerable time for. That does still make me feel a little bit tense, distressed, angry, vexed, pissed off. It's like I want to fucking kill somebody right here. Even sometimes a prisoner, a correction officer, or a police officer, because I tend to be well against them in my previous videos, and just basically make me angry at the world. And even at times I have actually tried to kill myself and been in suicide watch twice in federal custody because it was extremely difficult to cope with. Today, I know, is July 28th, and in May I actually took a plane back from Los Angeles and then arrived in Britain when there were rail strikes going on and I couldn't get a train home, so I was forced to stay the night at Heathrow Airport before I got onto a National Express bus, which was filling up rapidly for people trying to make their travel. And it was pretty horrendous. I didn't predict on the rail strikes happening, but they did, and I was kind of stranded. Throw a little bit about in custody and when I got out. Well, in custody, I was in the Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles. I was brought there from the county jail, and before the county jail, I've been picked up by both Pasadena PD and the LAPD in Los Angeles. Pasadena was where I lived, and it's a city separate to Los Angeles with separate police departments on each different cases of what's called criminal threats, which criminal threats is a kind of funny law, and it's regarded as a wobbler. It really just, the whole in of it is more like just sending more like an angry, bashful tone where like you sort of feel like you're going to kill someone you don't. then it was perceived as a threat, and I had victims complaining about this allegedly over time. I don't want to go deep into exactly why, and it was the issue was rather complex. I could probably give you an example. It wasn't really because they didn't want to go on a date. I didn't particularly feel that there was any objective for any romantic relationship. On one occasion, I met one woman who ran a matchmaking firm called Sync, based in Newport Beach. And I remember going to a networking event where I would say, hello, how are you doing? My name's Sam. I run Cloud Connected, and she's like, hey, I'm Katie, and I am running matchmaking. Well, that's wonderful. I'm single. I'm looking, and she said, look, I don't feel comfortable. Can you go away? I was like, what? You just tore this out of me now. It's like, what the fuck? Why exactly would you tell me that you feel uncomfortable? I'm telling you a bit about a situation where your service would be of benefit. I thought that's what matchmaking is. Is helping people when they're single meet their fine. Actually, anyway, well, I did kind of explode a bit with an email to her, but anyway, she just took it to the FBI. Because she's just stupid. There are quite a few other cases involving another saying that they don't want to speak to me and report me just because I was trying to reach out in a friendly manner when I was mean absolutely no harm at all. And none of these victims I meant any actual harm. When I contacted them in the first instance like a normal person, it just beyond beggars belief. It was gobsmacked or flabbergasted by this experience. It's just and there were a few societies. When I did get the discovery in federal custody, I learnt that the reason I was banned from a society called the Cross Campus is because a girl told them that I sent death threats when I didn't. I did not send a death threat. I said, fuck you, bitch, or just something like that. But they took it as a death threat and said, we've banned Sam from going to these societies. I was like, it didn't make any sense. It didn't make sense to begin with, but when I got the discovery, it began to make philosophical sense. So yes, a bit about custody. I remember how I had sort of a cell, and one of my cellmates was an old man who never washed, and it just stank. It's a really horrendous keep in my nose, and they put me with him because I was new and I wouldn't contest against him, and a lot of people contested against being a cellie, and they said I pushed him when I slightly knocked into him when I got into a misfit of rage over I think it was just something to do with not getting my sheets, basically, with the laundry gut, and I got put in segregation. And then afterwards I was kicked out of it because it was the annex, and it was the first cell, which I explained the first cell was developed the annex, and they said that I didn't fit for the annex anymore. I should just go to the general population, and it's and I sort of remember general population. A sort of Filipino guy who he broke the post off a table. It's just so you're trying to fiddle with a table and he broke off the post. I couldn't stand him. He was, sorry, my screensaver makes me go dark sometimes. He, he really was scared. Sometimes was a very loud mouth open scoffer. One Sally that I did get on with, it was a guy originally from Florida called David Law, is his name, and all he was in was basically for putting Clorox on ice cubes. So he had some sort of funny agenda of increasing humidity, and he got stopped in a bus station up in San Jose, Northern California, and he was brought in on federal charges, revealing that he'd done this to many stores in Ralph's in California, and he had about 4 years sentence. But there were people in there. I remember one time I had a cell with Edward Buck, who was actually hit the headline news in Los Angeles, and I remember sharing a cell also with someone suspected allegedly of kidnapping in the state of Vermont. A guy, what was trying to think his name? Everett Simpson. He remember sharing a cell with him. I remember the change of plea. It was dreadful. I couldn't quite put myself into realm. I was not ready for it. I was not ready to be asked all the series of questions typical of the Judge Fischer then, and it felt by the defence lawyer railroaded to confess, even though I was confessing to the wrong stuff, and not being very well clearly explained, but only to be forced to almost accept that I understood when I did not actually understand what was going on. And I do have, autism, and I've had autism since I was 6, so it has been an underlying condition that is being, permanent with me, and it's been a no changer. Anyway, the sentencing was just dreadful, because I did remember that before we had the pre-sentence, I had no interview with the probation officer, and they said that they had no mental problems, which was bullshit. There was underlying mental health history, which my lawyer didn't even bother fighting against, even though he hired a doctor from UCLA called Dr. Freeman to do a thorough assessment. He did not put that in the report, nor did he argue anything. The prosecutor, Lauren Restrepo, regarded the autism as inappropriate, which I remember. And I felt that was absolutely absurd, because this was definitely a case where mental health is paramount, with particularly determining a sentence throughout this whole atrocity, or even more so when I'm trying to appeal, which I did submit the appeals after my sentence, that my defence lawyer said you can't appeal it, you just stuck with it and you just do your time. It's just, he couldn't care less, he just was out for the money. I felt genuinely I was basically well and truly hosed and railroaded by being put in federal court, seeing a federal judge, and doing time for something that was out of what I would really do. I wasn't a cyber stalker. I mean, I don't go follow people. I don't go and show up at their address. I didn't basically do any of that with putting them under surveillance with an intention to kill. It was just bullshit, and nor use the internet, which was the subsection of the statute in the title 182261A2 cyberstalking. If you ever see the Title 18 statute of federal crimes, you know that's what it came under. It was more like sending a threat through electronic and mailing, and they also put witness tampering because in it they all because of the thing of saying that I hindered or delayed their communication with law enforcement, just telling them to don't fucking call the police. So yeah, it was dreadful. I mean, words can't describe the experience over that time after the sentencing, and I went to Victorville, where I was shipped out to the FCC. After the detention centre, the FCC is where they send you to serve your time, and I served my time probably one of the worst prisons according to so many people's accounts in the desert of California, where I first had a cell with someone who was convicted of drugs, and he sold drugs to someone who happened to work for the FBI, and about most of the people there I served time were people done for drugs and possession of a gun. And I think most of the offences were quite laughable, kind of make you wonder that they're doing up to 10 years for something that just does not add up to being so sinister. In fact, some of them were actually quite decent people, but there were a few assholes. I can mention probably Annette Wilson, who had a very teenage way of teasing because I don't know his intention, but I got sick of him. I did one time punch him across the head when he knocked on my cell door and just kind of walked off like some kid, basically. A knock ditch game. And anyway, fuck him. Yeah, I did remember at Victorville, 4 weeks in, I got called to the lieutenant's office when I was trying to sort of send a few letters in a bit of revolt to the former institution that they got upset about, the staff, and they basically I argued, look, I don't see why I should go to the shoot. What have I done really that's wrong? It's like they were fixated on dealing with me by putting me in the show. I had an argument and I was thrown out. I was all thrown down on the ground in the lieutenant's office by Dennis, and then I was basically held to the holding cell in the shoe, and then I was also thrown down, acting like I should stop resisting, and I remember one officer called Marquez actually decided he would use his power trip to punch me in the forehead right here, and then and then this stuff just kept me shackled, like on a 4-point restraint like that, to just tell me for about 14 hours, longer than the Code of Federal Regulations required. And basically I was kept there for 14 hours with just water. It was absolutely dreadful. It could not describe the most dreadful experience in my life. And I have an active lawsuit going against that, but nevertheless, it was still dreadful. I mean, that Marquez was probably the most bullying, most roughest power trip of a CO around. I spent 6 months in the shoe, and he was a complete repeated harasser in the shoe. I remember being out of the shoe one Christmas where I had another altercation with staff, and what happened is that I was right near the laundry area, and I was trying to ask somebody who was a bit of distance away, but who managed some laundry and put it into the tumble dryer. I asked him, "Did you put my laundry in?" And what I saw was, while I was doing that, a CO, a correction officer, came out. She was like, "Are you talking to me?" I was like, "No, I'm talking to this bloke here." I was like, "Don't talk to me like that." Now I exploded. I said, "Fuck you." Nowadays I'm still pretty angry by that woman. She basically talked to me like in such a demeaning manner, like I was some sort of child talking to her at the wrong tone, and I completely lost it with that lady. When I go fuck you to her, she's like, "Come here." I refused. I did not cooperate with her at all. She abused her power on me when she interjected into a bit of a conversation that she was not part of. And yeah, I got called to the lieutenant's office, and I was told by this woman called Hurst that she didn't want to hear it, keep my mouth shut. I should just go to the shoot. I got put in the shoe again in Victorville because that woman abused her power on me. And the psychologist told me I should respect the staff, but you can't respect someone who abuses you. I mean, it's like you can't respect police officers who abuse their power. So yeah, I spent about 4 months in the shoe, and like April 18th, I remember that was the release date, and I wasn't successful for the appeal. I did not get exonerated, so I've also filed a 2255 motion to the court, and that too was denied by Judge Fischer. So I have now filed an appeal, and adjacent to that, I have been put a writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court of Justice describing the case, describing how I've felt badly treated in custody. Well, I was found guilty through such miscarriage of justice that they basically did, violated the Rule 11b2, which was argument to make the appellate waiver invalid, when I pled guilty to a crime that I really did not do. I did not really cyberstalk. That was very much the worst of what was going out. Maximise things for something just seemed kind of laughable and common in everyday life, where some people do sort of send abusive messages and threats online, but I felt like it just seemed disproportionate to go to prison for it. I swear that for anyone watching this, I hope you understand that we all seem to now fall prey to a very corrupt justice system, and yes, I still get a bit of harassment from the police from an earlier video, where one police in the local area tried to invite me to an interview. It's like, I just told him, make the arrangement and just get out of my hair. Because I did sort of speak to them for quite a bit of time, what made the video have a bit of entertainment, help people get along with their day. But I always say to anyone, never ever attend an interview with the police, because it's always just a moment where they're trying to trip you up to self-incriminate you. You're not obliged to by statute, and certainly not by English common law. And it's your right to always avoid self-incrimination, because that's where, by putting you in an interview room and making you try and speak, is where they're trying to basically rescind your rights. So yes, I have a lawsuit going on, particularly with the Victorville case, and I have particularly issued the summons on the warden in my civil lawsuit. Yet to find some representation, and I have been turned down by a few lawyers. But I had an email from my appellate attorney, and he said that he's willing to support me on my Supreme Court case. So all the shit's just ongoing now at the moment. And with being deported, well, what I did is, when I got released from custody, I was basically ordered to attend immigration court on my own reconnaissance, so I did not get detained in ICE custody. I was just free to walk, and I stayed at my friend's motel before I actually booked a flight home, which I deemed myself as voluntary removal with ICE, where I didn't need to attend court. I just sort of went back home by myself to the United Kingdom. So yeah, that's I'd say this is kind of the highlight of my story. But if I get any news, and I'm sure before you've seen some of the news, I'll probably be sure to let you know. It's basically, one of the key things to know is know your rights. No freedom of expression is acceptable, except maybe if you threaten or use it as sort of racially slurring a group. And know that in circumstances you do have a right to effective counsel, and Fourth and Fifth Amendment against basically not be forced to confess to a big crime, and know when the police have a right to come into your house, like no warrant, no entry, unless there's exigent circumstances. But in particular, the United Kingdom, you can find it all in section 17 of PACE about the police right of entry into your property, and that's how I executed it on the ring camera of the officer back here in the UK, who Mr. Chris Wood, 8382 of Devon and Cornwall Constabulary. Let's say I live in Cornwall, so we have this sort of Devon and Cornwall Constabulary who get involved in such ridiculous reports by people who I was shocked to learn I got banned from my astronomy society, all because I told the chairman of it about what happened. But they had other ideas. He said they honestly banned me from the society. You just ban me because of what all these other bullshitters believe. It's like, how's that right? I might not tell people about it because not everybody needs to know right away, but if you don't know that I've been through this kind of hell, now you do. Alright, take care everyone and be safe. Goodbye.